Hey, so it's Brian from Own It Fit, which most of you guys are actually going to know who I am already. I'm here with the lovely Kelly here today, who has been with us for how long, Kelly?
I want to say 5, maybe 6 years.
Mm. So you're not the original, but you're one of the originals.
Yeah.
Kelly, you've been with us for I guess, yeah, you said nearly 6 years. And recently you've just completed the motivation makeover. Um,
hmm
I guess, tell me what made you decide to do it?
Yeah, a good question, I suppose. So like I said, have been on it for, I'd say 6 years now. Totally turned my life around with regards to training because I was really inconsistent at training before. I did try gyms here and there. Didn't do a lot. I was a backpacker. I did a lot of drinking, and then when I decided I was getting sponsored and I was going to stay here long term, I needed to make a difference for myself. There's weight-related diabetes on both sides of my family, which I really didn't want to get. So I was like, you know what, I really need to do something. And I joined Own It Fit, and it was exactly what I needed with regards to training. I got it really consistent at it. Now I hate when I don't train. I know that I'm not, because I train first thing in the morning. I know that I'm not awake. I don't feel the same in the day. So it's really changed my life in that respect. I did different plans at the beginning, like 4-week plans and 6-week plans, and I could definitely see massive changes in that time. The problem was I wasn't able to keep it up, and I would go from a huge weight loss to a huge weight gain, and that kept happening to me constantly. I knew what to do to lose lots of weight, but I couldn't keep it off all the time. So obviously we had a chat about this motivation makeover because I was in a place where I was just really unhappy, and I was just so sick of that constant fluctuation, that I wanted something that was more consistent. And that's what brought me to do the motivation makeover.
Okay. Tell me what your biggest problems were before you started. So when did you start? August?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so when we spoke in August, what was the biggest problem that you were facing at that stage?
When I felt like, okay, I really need to do something here, my weight's really bothering me. I would just, I suppose, crash diet is the easiest way to explain it. I would cut everything out. I mean, I'd cut like mostly carbs out. I would cut everything I liked out. And then, really basic minimal calories. Wasn't calorie counting, but just cutting everything out. And I could do it for like 2 or 3 days, and then I would pure binge and then get really upset with myself because I purely binged and feel awful. And things like when I was trying to be really good, it was like, anybody who watches this that's Own It Fit knows me. I like a drink, I really like a drink. So I cut out the drink. I've done it I've cut it out for 4 weeks. I've cut it out for 6 weeks. And I could, feel really good after I've done that. But I like to socialize, and I didn't like that side of me of not being able to do that. And I would get really, I was unhappy because I was bored because I wasn't going out and doing. I was stopping myself from doing those things because I was afraid. I wanted to keep the weight off. So I felt constantly unhappy because I was unhappy binging and drinking and feeling awful, and binging on food and then feeling awful about myself. But then unhappy because when I was eating, I say, well, I was hungry. I was cutting out the things I wanted. I was literally not sitting on the sofa at nighttime, going up to my room so I was away from the kitchen. And I wasn't socializing. So it was a constant battle of being unhappy regardless of what I was doing.
Okay, and how has that changed over the last 12 weeks?
I suppose with the motivation makeover, it's been a change of it's habits, and it's not cutting things out. It's just being mindful of what you're taking in. And the really good thing about it is that the habits it's like just 1 or 2 new habits every week. So you're just forming them slowly over a period of time. And I remember when I started it, you said to me, when we were talking about it, you're not going to see changes straight away. And I didn't. And for the first probably 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, God, normally I'd be down 2 or 3 kilos by now. I wasn't. But the one thing I will say is I was feeling good. So that kind of motivated me to keep going. But it made me think about just the habits that I formed, really little things like trying to increase my protein, but not cutting out carbs. It was more about looking at your calories, and I was obviously I was logging my food, which, to be fair, can sometimes, I know, can be hard for people, but actually once you get into it, is quite easy. I suppose I know for a lot of people, like there was calories there for me to have every day. They were really it was a really decent amount. I actually couldn't meet them most days, which was great then, because then I suppose I could bank a few for the weekend so that I could have a drink. But even with the drink, I was mindful about what I was drinking, as in choosing, the right sorts of, or, things with the least amount of calories. So yeah, it was just being mindful about, I could actually eat quite a lot, but it was just being mindful about what I was eating. I remember when I did one of the coaching calls, the first one, I said, what my issue is I want to know how to increase my calories without doing it the right way. Instead, like, I can increase my calories with chocolate, no problem. I could get to those. I think I started on 1900 calories or something. And I was probably only hitting 12 or 1400. But I was like, I want to increase them, but I wanted to know how to do it the right way. And through those coaching calls, and also the New Habits with Amanda, and talking to her, knowing, what I say struggling with, but how to increase my calories, she was able to give me little habits every week, one or two, to teach me how to do that without doing it in an unhealthy way, but doing it in a healthy way. So I never found myself hungry. I was always, full. I was enjoying my food. But it was just, that's what's changed for me anyway.
Any small habits that you've taken on that you didn't realize were going to manifest a big change for you?
Putting me on a spot now. I suppose things like just being mindful about, okay, I try to base all of my meals around the protein. So I know for breakfast, like, I need a protein source of some sort, and to have a carb and a vegetable, or a fruit or a vegetable. I try to make something green in each of my meals, which isn't really hard to do. But that's what's changed for me, is that's what I think about. Like for breakfast, and I struggle, breakfast is the one thing I struggle with the most, because there's lots of things I don't like, and I get bored of things very easy. But like, I can have eggs and mix that up with lots of different vegetables every day, and you can still have bread if you want to. I used to cook bread out, like, I can't have bread for breakfast, but you can have, I actually use the sandwich thins, which are, a bit lower in calories, but you can still have them. And I can still have like a sauce or something like that on there, or something that gives it flavor, but just, a little bit of it, or whatever it is. But yeah, I suppose for me, it's thinking, okay, my main source of, on my meals, my main food is going to be a protein. I can have a carb, and I can have, I try to make it a green vegetable, but it can be another vegetable. And you're allowed to have fats as well, because they're generally just included in something that you eat anyway. But that's what I get from it. And just that, my snacks, again, to be like a protein source if I can.
Okay, fabulous. I remember a couple of months before you got started, you and me were having a conversation around tracking foods, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying, but there was significant resistance there with doing that, and you said it earlier of how it can change. It gives you the information that you're able to play with, and you can make better decisions based on the planning. What was the turning point for you with that?
Yeah, I was really against it to begin with, because it was like time. When I decided to do the plan, I'd hit a point where, like, I say rock bottom, it's a strong phrase, but for myself, psychologically, how I was feeling about how I looked and how I felt, I was like, okay, I just need to do something. And if this is going to be what works for me, I'm going to give it a go. It can be a bit tricky at the beginning, but what I found was it just became a habit for me, again, just tracking things. And I, like with my Fitness Pal, you can make a meal and you can just save it there, and you can say how many portions it's going to be. And then, like, I don't know about most people, but I'm quite not boring with my food, but I eat a lot of the same things. I'm not very adventurous, just because I'm not amazing at cooking. But like, so if I have fajitas once a week, all I have to do is put that in there. What I've made with the fajitas, everything has a barcode. You just scan it in. Do you know what I mean? It's really handy, and you can make a meal. Say it's going to be 4 portions, and you've had a portion for dinner. You might have a portion for lunch the next day or whatever, but you can use that again the next week. So if I have a spag bol, a fajitas, tacos, or I might have potatoes, turkey burgers, and green veg night. Like, I can use them then every time I do it. So it's actually quite simple. And then with for me, then I get like meal plans for lunch. So I get Hunger Games, which Amanda very nicely gave me a code for that as well. For me, what helped with that was variety in my food, because I am quite boring with my food. I'm not very adventurous. And most of those meal planning places have, like, they're on MyFitnessPal. So all I had to do was type in the name of it and it came up. So you can make it quite simple for yourself. Yeah, there's a lot actually, and the Own a Fit recipes are on there as well. You can barcode those, and I've used a few of those too. So there is a lot of simple ways of doing it. But yes, I do understand that it is a process of getting your head around it, but it is doable.
And look, I think what you haven't said so far is, but I'm going to say it, is you went from planning 4 days a week to planning probably 6 days a week in terms of your food. And actually, even on the day that you didn't have a set plan in place, you still knew what you were going to have. So you had a loose plan in place, and it wasn't a strict plan. You were just able to adhere to it and work with what you were trying to do.
And that's like you said, with a plan, like planning ahead is important, and knowing, like, it was always like, right, I have to do my food shopping at some point over the weekend to be prepared for next week. Because if I wasn't prepared, things would probably fall apart. Now, I suppose I was lucky within a lot of the part of those 3 months. I was kind of working part-time, and it made it a little bit easier for me to get to the shops a bit more regularly. But there are ways around it. I mean, like I said, I do some meal planning. I can shop online on Coles if I need to, because sometimes I just really struggle to get to the shops. There are definitely ways around it. But yeah, I am, like, now I'm not using the planner anymore, but because it's become a habit in my head, I'm just able to do it now, and I know myself what I can eat to keep me healthy and within kind of in my calories, or, and for me now, it's not really about just my calories, it's about feeling well. And that's what the first 4 weeks, where maybe I wasn't seeing a difference, I was definitely feeling better. I definitely had more energy. And yeah, and then we did regular, like, measuring photos, things like that. And like that photos, I wouldn't see a thing really, but with the measures, I definitely saw a difference. So yeah, I suppose I know myself, I was quite resistant to all of this before. But if you're really in that place where you just think, I need to see a change, it's definitely worth doing it. And yes, it's 12 weeks, but the 12 weeks absolutely flew by. And definitely, for my mindset and how I feel about myself, was 100% worth it.
So you said there that you couldn't see the difference. Are you still saying that you can't see the difference?
Oh no, I definitely see it now. I'm talking about the first 3 weeks maybe. And actually, I could see it in the measures, like when I had to do the measuring, but I wasn't really, actually other people were saying it to me. I just couldn't see it myself. But I actually think that how you look is very psychological. It's actually, I feel like the minute people start saying it to you, then you feel it yourself. I was obviously feeling it in my clothes as well. And like, I'd had a few months off work there, well, not off work, but I wasn't wearing work clothes. And then when the centre opened, it was the middle of October, I was putting work clothes back on that I was wearing in March, April. And they fit me so well. They were even a bit loose on me, whereas I was really struggling to even fit into them before then. But they're the things that made me feel it eventually. But again, like I said, I think it's a bit psychological with how your weight, actually, you feel about your weight. But I know myself, I felt better. I felt healthier even in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And just with trying to eat a bit more protein, I'll be completely honest, I probably rarely hit my protein target, because I do find that a struggle. But I was definitely eating more protein than I normally was, and I was feeling fuller.
Something. Yeah, you were working towards it, as opposed to throwing in the towel because it wasn't working.
And the good thing was that if you felt like, I know with Amanda, if you feel like something is unachievable for a reason, like for what'd you say, like a legitimate reason, like, I know, like, I was doing 10,000 steps a day, or they're actually increased to 12,000 because I didn't have a car for a while, so I wasn't walking a lot. But I know some people were starting off on 6,000 steps a day because they never normally walk a lot. So it's very relative to the individual. It's very tailored to the individual, which really helps as well.
Tell me, so you alluded to it there, but we didn't quite get into it. What sort of results did you achieve, or have you achieved?
So I think I lost 4 to 5 kilos. I can't remember the centimeters, but I definitely lost a lot of them. I just felt happier in myself. I felt more confident. Like, and again, I think that's a psychological thing, but with people saying, you know, that I looked well, or I put on clothes that were fitting me much better, I was much more confident going out. And I suppose without it, I don't want to say that's the main thing about how you look, but if that affects you psychologically, it is a huge thing. And it was affecting me psychologically. Like, I know I want to be healthy. And like I said, the whole reason I even started On A Fit was because of diabetes in my family. But for me, it was definitely a confidence thing. And also wanting to have a plan for myself. That was a habit, that was a life, that was life, and not just something that I did for 6 weeks or for 4 weeks. I wanted something that I could live on.
We spoke like extensively before you started, and I was very clear with you with where things were going, because I wanted you to make sure that you weren't thinking it was a 4 week. It was going to be that big change. What's the biggest takeaway that you've got from it?
I remember us having that conversation, and I remember literally the first couple of weeks thinking, I haven't really done much different, or I haven't, like, everything happened so like the habits came in such small little doses that I didn't feel like I was making huge big changes. So I didn't feel like I was depriving myself of anything, or I didn't feel like I was hungry, or but I suppose what I took from it is I can have in my lifestyle, I can enjoy what I'm eating, and still be happy in how I look and my confidence and how I'm feeling about myself. You know, there's definitely ways to work around it. For me, the biggest thing that I have in my head is that when I don't deprive myself of nights out, I don't deprive myself of eating out. When I'm cooking for myself, that's when I make the best choices I can. If I'm at home, I don't really get takeaways anymore. That was my thing. It was like, oh, just out of pure ease, I'd get a takeaway. But now, like, I know how quick it is to cook, you know, or I'll have a Hunger Games there or something like that. When I'm cooking for myself, which is probably 85% of the week, I make all of the best choices. And then when I eat out, I don't feel guilty about picking, you know, nicer things on the menu. Sometimes if I know I'm having a week where I'm eating out a bit more, I might make a little, you know, I might have like, okay, I'll have steak and vegetables and potatoes or whatever. I might not go and have a Parmigiana and chips or something like that. But I can still enjoy it. I still like it, you know.
What were you most surprised with? Because, and I'm gonna, because when someone has never worked with us before, what they're expecting is to be pushed really hard, and they need to train 6-7 days a week, and they need to do 50,000 steps, and they need to eat chicken and broccoli. But what was, I guess, what your expectations versus the reality? How did it fare out?
Yeah, it was. I hate saying the word easy, because I suppose nothing's ever easy for someone. It was a very gradual process, and I was expecting like that to be hungry or to be, you know, whatever. It was very, it was a gradual process. It was, it was easy to follow what was being asked of me to do, and the reason for that is because I worked with Amanda, and she tailored the program to suit me so that it was manageable for me. And I think when somebody does that, and it's because everyone's lifestyle is different, everyone's weight is different, everyone's expectations are different, because it's tailored, it's, I'll say, manageable rather than easy. And I didn't feel like I was on a plan. I felt like it was just, you know, my week was just, you know, normal, but I was, you know, being healthy and choosing healthy options, but I wasn't choosing healthy options and starving myself.
Perfect. Okay. I guess I'm pretty much out of questions. One of the things that I said to you before you get started was that this has to be with a long-term focus, and that if you were, and I said it already, but do you feel that you've got the tools to continue this process now as on a long term without depriving yourself?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I know now what the best choices are to make on a normal, on an everyday. I think about my week ahead and think about, okay, you know, I'm probably going to be at home 5 days of the week. So, you know, if I can choose a good breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks in between, then the best choices that I can. My weekend is a little bit more free for me to kind of do it as I want to an extent. And also, I suppose what I really realized was, especially in the last maybe 2 weeks, because 2 or 3 weeks, work got really, really busy. And the first week or two when work got really busy, I kind of, you know, strayed a little bit because I wasn't as prepared as I should have been for how busy it would be. And what I realized was when I did stray from it and, you know, maybe had a takeaway or sat and ate a bag of jellies to get me through whatever I was doing, I actually felt awful. And it made me realize that actually I really enjoy feeling the way I feel from, you know, from what I learned to do in the motivation makeover. And I want to feel like that all the time, you know? So that it helped me to, like, I suppose it reminded me that I knew that. It reminded me of that, but also it's in a way that is just manageable every single day.
Very good. Thank you. Final question. What would you say to one of the current members who's thinking about or who's interested in doing the, what's the word for it, who's looking to actually make that change and to give a bigger focus on their overall health as opposed to just the training side?
I want to say, I would say do it. But it's not that it's simple to just do it. We had a conversation and you said to me, like, it needs to be a long-term thing. What I had to tell myself was, this is what I want for me, and I had to put me first. Because I was really unhappy. And I think if you really want to put yourself first, and everyone should put themselves first, I think life just gets in the way and we forget to put ourselves first. Put yourself first and think about, in the long run, this is going to make you feel better. It made me feel a million times better, you know, within a couple of weeks, just knowing that I was, you know, looking after myself. So yeah, it's not something you should do on a whim. Don't get me wrong. I think you do have to think about it. You have to be able to plan and, you know, just, you know, plan for your week ahead. It's not that hard, but it's just getting your mindset around it. But if you want to do one thing for yourself, you know, go for it, because it's 3 months of your life and that's all it is. And the 3 months flies by. You don't even notice the time going.
Kelly Bryan, thank you very